Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundless success to join today. Let's get you to the next level.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Happily Never After show. I'm your host and resident grief expert, Kate Molison. This week is our season finale, and I'm so super excited to introduce local celebrity and radio disc jockey personality, Steve Nagle from local Rock 102. Thanks, Steve, for being with us this week.
You're welcome. It's always weird to be introduced as a celebrity. Kind of do everything else everybody else does. So,
But you are, right? Like you have a reach and an impact and a voice that spreads over the tri-state area if you're lucky, right? Like depending on how good your radio signal is.
Yeah, and people actually listen sometimes. So I try not to be too egregious with jokes about pee-pees and wee-wees.
But you guys do a Kardashian bit every now and then.
That's something
for
we
those
do
regular
every day.
listeners out there.
Yeah, real great for the kids to hear. That's always a good
especially
bit,
in the car on the way to school in the morning.
Absolutely. So
Because that's when you're on. You're on in the morning, right?
yeah, we're on from 5:30 to 10.
And you've been doing that for a long time.
20 years actually next month, which will
Wow,
be
congratulations.
Yeah, that's quite a milestone. So I didn't even think I would make it this long. So
Oh, really? Oh, well.
Well, it's a radio business.
Me.
You never know when they're going to fold up, So
It's a dying media, I feel like, but it's also not lost on me. So my late husband, Craig, he went to the Connecticut School of Broadcast, and his father inadvertently talked him out of going into becoming a radio DJ because it wasn't a stable career with longevity. And here you are to prove my father-in-law.
Well, let me first say I'm sorry that your late husband went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, but I'm also sorry for your loss as well. So
thank you so much. Yeah. And that's what brings us here, right? So you recently had me on the morning show for Rock 102, where we talked about some of the upcoming things I have, the conference and the comedy show, but you share that experience in losing a spouse and navigating that. If you're willing, would you care to share what your experience is?
Yeah, it was back in let's see, it was probably August. This is a really crazy story. It was about August of 2016. My wife Jennifer, we had been married since 2009. So we were, probably it was going on year 7 that we were married, and we were both busy people. She had 2 jobs. She was a bartender, and she also worked for a clinical outreach program for Latino-based clients for Gandara Center in Springfield.
Wow.
And but she also bartended on the weekends. So and I DJ'd weddings and I do the morning show. So sometimes we were like 2 ships passing in the night, but we always, kind of made time for each other to make sure that we had our Thursday night date nights. That was where we'd sit and, do bills and everything else and talk about the kids.
That's date night, right?
And then, sometimes we would stay up till midnight drinking martinis. So there you
go.
That's a good idea.
Balance.
So it was around August of 2016, and I was at a gig, and she texted me, and she said, "Listen, I got stung by a lot of bees outside the house." She was washing a window, and there was 6 bee stings that she got: 2 in her head, 2 in her chest, and 2 on her wrist. And luckily, her mother was home, who had been a retired nurse, and she had taken care of, made sure all the stingers were out, and she didn't seem to be having any kind of allergic reaction to it. And then about 5 days later, the the healthiest woman I know, who never goes to the hospital, said, "I think I need to go see somebody. I think there's something wrong with me. I feel." Um, she just didn't feel right. She was still feeling
Mm.
ill from the bee stings. So we went to a Med Express in the middle of August, and which is kind of like the Jiffy Lube of doctors' offices.
Like a walk-in clinic, right?
Right. But, and, not to demean the people that work there, but it just sometimes they rush you through things. But they did
Sure.
find something, and they said, well, we need you to go to the ER. So we went to Bay State Noble in Westfield, and that's where we spent quite a few hours there, and they did a bunch of tests and scans and things like that. And then because this particular bite on her chest wouldn't really go away. The other ones had kind of
Mm.
subsided, and this one wouldn't go away. And they at one point in the visit, they close the door, and the nurse holds her hand, and the doctor uh, says that she might have some sort of lymphoma or something going on. And I'm like,
Wow.
and I'm skeptical because I'm like, we came in here for a bee sting. Like this
Right.
isn't, I don't know what you're talking about, So, but
Yeah, you're not
that's
ready to drink the Kool-Aid yet.
right, and that set the anxiety until the next day when we were able to see an oncologist, and this oncologist who's a really good oncologist goes through about 100 different questions of what somebody with cancer would have. And he's asking her, are you sweating at night? Are you doing this? You're not eating? And yada, yada, yada.
Mm.
And she says no to every single one of them. And so he says, we're going to still treat this like a bee sting because that's what I feel that this is.
Mm.
And so he put her on a course of antibiotics. And for the next 2 months, she was on these antibiotics, and the lump would go away, and then it would come back, and then the
Mm.
lump would go away, and then it would come back. And then the Veterans Day weekend of 2016, her stomach starts distending, much
Wow.
like somebody with ascites that would have a liver disease or something like that. And she's obviously concerned. I'm concerned. So she goes to the doctor, and he says, okay, we need to do a biopsy on that.
Mm.
And they did a biopsy, and they found out it was stage 4 something. They just didn't know
Wow.
what kind of cancer it was. And that set off, a couple of weeks of waiting and going to doctor's
Mm.
offices, and your whole life changes, and
It's a
you're just in a
hurry up and
whirlwind.
wait. Oh
Yeah,
my
you
gosh.
hurry up and wait, and you're going a mile a minute, and you don't know,
Yeah.
you don't know
Which
what
way
to
is up?
think, and
Yeah.
you're not, my routine's thrown off. I'm not, I have this, thing where I try to nap in the afternoon when I come home from work, before the kids come home, and that kind of thing. All that stuff is just put aside, and your brain is going pretty much all day long
Yeah.
until the day before Thanksgiving of that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she had a colonoscopy and an endoscopy done, and
Mm.
that's where they found out that it was esophageal cancer. There was a huge tumor at
Mm.
the where her esophagus met her stomach lining. So then we knew what it was. At that point, it was absolutely devastating
Yeah.
when the doctor calls you into his office, and I'm not talking about the exam room. I'm talking about the his actual
Down
office
at the desk. Yeah.
with a couch and
Ooh.
and he's explaining to you, and he's talking, and you're just not listening to you.
Mm.
Everything that he's saying is bad, and it's that there's nothing good that he's talking about. He's talking about how it metastasized itself. It's had spread to her lymph nodes,
Jesus,
and
like
all these,
taking the
yeah,
lawyer down.
all these different places that it had gone to, and it was just absolutely devastating. And that she didn't want to hear. She was a very strong-willed individual, and she loved her children more than any mother that I've ever seen love somebody
Mm.
before. And she didn't want to hear any bad news. She only wanted to hear anything that was positive. which
Mm.
I thought was a great attitude, but it was also like, I think I got a feeling of like you're leaving me in the dark of this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the
Kind
other
of
half
good
of
cop,
this.
bad cop
Yeah,
almost.
well, because you go through those feelings, and there's this feeling of like, okay, yes, I understand. Like, obviously, for you, this is horrible. Like,
Going through it.
you're going
Yeah.
through it, and you have this disease, and but like selfishly, I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I? How am I going to do
Mm.
this? How am I gonna? And I tried not to and because of her outlook on things, I tried not to be so negative about it. And we went to Boston to get a second opinion, and they said you can do the treatments in Springfield. It's the exact same stuff we would be giving you here,
Mm.
because and you start learning things. You become almost a medical expert about things that
Yeah.
that
Really don't
you
want to be an
you
expert
don't, you
on.
don't want to be an expert on, and it kind of gives you an inside peek to how things work. And
Mm.
I didn't realize that every single type of cancer is treated completely differently. I
Oh,
didn't understand.
really?
I didn't
I
really.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's well, there's different drugs. There's different drugs that they give
I
people.
guess
Some
different
people,
cocktails of medications and stuff.
yes, and some people, and it's everything is catered to
Interesting.
each patient based on their proteins and
Hmm.
all these things I really didn't want to know, but it was helpful to know
Right.
when we started going through the process. And she went to Mercy Medical Center, was the Sister Caritas Cancer Center, which
Mm.
I can't say enough good things about the entire staff that were there. That were
Shout
just
out to Mercy. Love
yeah,
that.
they were just amazing people, and we had our nurse Kelly, who is still a good friend to this day, but every single person that worked there was absolutely amazing, and they
Mm.
were so kind and comforting, and they clearly knew what they were doing, and things went well over the course of those probably 5 months or so that we were going for treatments. And it was probably around the end of March where Jennifer started to, she started having leg pain, and she couldn't figure out where the leg pain was coming from.
Mm.
And so now we're thinking, okay, well, this is probably the effects of the chemotherapy that she's going through with the cocktail mix, because they did warn us that you could experience
Yeah.
some nerve pain and things like that. And I think it was
Yeah. I
April.
hear chemo's pretty brutal.
Right. And April Fool's Day, she was home with my sister-in-law, and she's texting me. She's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. And I said, okay, I'll meet you there. And I was finishing
Mm.
up with my gig, and I met her at Noble Hospital in Westfield again. And they did a brain scan on, like a quick CT scan on her, but they found nothing. And they loaded her up with more drugs, and they sent her home. So it
Mm.
was just painkiller after painkiller after painkiller thing. And then by the following week, the pain had started to get so bad that we needed to take her back into the cancer center. And,
Mm.
and but before, and we did take her to the cancer center, and they wound up sending us home at the end of the day. Um, and then once I got her home and I got her all these different meds and things like that, um, I'm like, this is crazy. Like the pain that she's
Mm.
going through, I've never seen anybody deal with anything like that. And I'm still thinking it's from the medication, because the other piece to that is the recent scans that she had were maybe 5 days prior. All the tumors were gone. They were gone from her,
Mm.
the lymph
So the
nodes,
scans
and
were clean. Yeah.
yeah, and which was weird, and she was really just having so much trouble with this leg pain, and so that was like on a Saturday, and then by Monday, I take her back to the cancer center. They sent her home, and then with more pain medication, and then she wasn't able to sleep. And I wound up
Mm.
calling my sister-in-law, and I said, one of us has to take her to the ER, because there's no way, because you still have kids. You have kids at home that are
Yeah.
still
You have to juggle
there.
all of it.
And so my sister-in-law wound up taking her back to the emergency room. They were there all night long. They probably came, and it was horrible. I had to basically
Mm.
carry her to the car. She threw up on the way out on the front lawn on the way to the car.
Oh my
She
God.
gets in the car, but she hadn't eaten. There was all these
Yeah.
factors going into the fact that, why she would be vomiting, at 9 o'clock at night. And they sent her back home. The
Oh,
ER sent her back home for 5 o'clock in the morning.
how
And
frustrating.
yeah, and she was really in severe pain. And I finally I had, as soon as the office opened, I was calling the doctor's office, the oncologist office, and I said, listen, something is going on here. We need to, put her,
Yeah.
we need to find some solution to this. So he had me bring her back into the cancer center. They comforted her there for a while, and then they eventually moved her in. They admitted her into Mercy Hospital,
Mm.
and that that was when they did a scan on her spine and realized that the cancer had spread to her spinal cord.
Oh
And
my God.
it was all up her spinal cord. And
Oh,
that's what was causing her the nerve pain and the
Jesus.
yeah. So it was that was um that was pretty surprising and like shocking
Was
because
not on your bingo card.
well, because everything seemed so, so good. Everything seemed like it was
Yeah.
going so well up until this leg pain. And, I had thought all along, all right, well, it's just leg pain. We're going to get through this. It's just the effects of the medicine.
Sure.
We can do that. And that was pretty much the death sentence when they said that. They had
Mm.
revealed that on a Friday night. And wasn't I had, again, balancing the kids. I had to leave the hospital on Friday afternoon to go get the kids at school because they were in the after school program.
Yeah.
And their schedules are getting all thrown off too because, they're like, why are we staying at school at 5 o'clock, for the after
Yeah. And
school
they were
program?
younger too, right? It's not
Right.
like
Because, and
older kids.
right. And
There's
my
a little bit
schedule,
of that
yeah,
protecting them and explaining it and being transparent, but also like not ruffling feathers and not disrupting routine. And
right.
it's
Because
a balancing act.
you don't know what to do and you don't know how to
Yeah.
explain it sometimes. So now their whole routines for the past week and a half had been thrown off because
Sure.
I was that was the nice thing about my schedule is that I was always able to we didn't have to pay for full day daycare
Right.
for my
Dad can
daughter
pick
because
up the kid.
I'd
Yep.
get out around 11 o'clock in the morning and be picking her up for noon. And my other daughter was in school until 2 o'clock for kindergarten. So now here they both are staying in a school program until 5 o'clock at night, which was kind of it throws their routine up. They
Yeah.
know when something's off, and I wound up taking them to dinner. I didn't. I just went to a restaurant in Westfield, actually the restaurant where she worked,
Mm.
but. Just to kind of familiarity with people that she knew, and they all kind of knew what was going on, so they were, very friendly
Yeah.
and really helping us out. And I got a call from the oncologist, and that's when he told me that it had spread all the way up the spinal
Oh
cord
boy.
and whatnot. And he was going to a wedding in New Jersey, like that.
Oh,
But he called me, and it was just like it's stupid little details about things that you remember, like
the
I don't know
universe
why.
has a nerve to have
Yeah.
poetic detail sometimes,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
you
It's
said.
like, okay, well, you're going to a wedding. I hope you have fun, kind
Have a
of thing.
nice time.
But
Yeah.
he didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, sure.
He was just saying, I'm sorry I didn't get to speak with you earlier. I am on the road and they have lives too. Like they're
Yeah.
as
And
far as
just because our lives stop doesn't
right.
mean theirs do.
Exactly. So that whole weekend was crazy. I had brought the kids in to see her on a Saturday morning, and then I brought them. I left, and I went to an Easter egg hunt. There was an Easter egg hunt in our
Mm.
town, and they were scheduled to go to a birthday party for a cousin in the afternoon. But then when we got back from the Easter egg hunt, I got a call from the hospital,
Mm.
and it was and this is where again my naivety, I guess, if you will, about not knowing about hospitals and not knowing, terminologies. And he left this message saying she had stopped breathing. Now, when somebody says they
Oh
stopped
my gosh.
breathing, like I'm thinking she's dead. She died. Like this is awful. Like she's gone. And stopping breathing and coding are two completely different things. Stopping
Very
breathing
different
is
thing.
like sleep apnea. It's like, you stop breathing.
Yeah.
And she had stopped breathing because of the fact that she was on so many narcotics and pain
Mm.
medications that it slows your breathing down. And they had to put her on oxygen and all that stuff. But he didn't explain that to me. So I'm like grabbing the kids. My sister had happened to come over just at that time because they were all going to go to this birthday party. And we said, we're not going to the birthday party. We're going to the hospital because by the time the doctor got back to me, he said, she's still alive. It's just that,
Sure.
he wanted me to sign the DNR is what he wanted me to sign. And
Oh.
yeah. And so I went, I took the kids and I went there to the hospital and I had no idea what to expect going upstairs to the room. But beforehand, I told my girls we were sitting in the hospital lobby and I said, listen, and we had our family members around and I said, your mom is probably going to pass away or had.
Mm.
I just said she probably is. And they understood that because they had seen that movie, that Big Hero 6 movie.
Oh yeah, love that
Yeah,
movie, but like
right.
makes me cry in a way I didn't need to now.
Right. But it was kind of more like
Yeah,
an
perfect relatable
understanding,
moment.
right, of means that's not he's not coming back or she's not coming back,
Right, that
kind of
permanence
thing.
of it, which is so hard to communicate to kids.
So I just told them and I said, listen, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
Mm.
There's all these people that are around us. We had my sister, my nieces, and just my in-laws were there. And I said, we're going to be okay. No matter what happens, uh, all of these people are going to help us. We're going to help us through this thing. And that was extremely hard. And I went up to the room by myself just
Yeah,
to see what was going on. And I
survival
walk,
indicator.
yeah, and I walk in the room, and my wife's like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What?"
What the
I mean,
hell?
she's hyped up on drugs, but I was like,
Sure, but
"What? Why?" I
not
was
even
like,
like on a ventilator or anything, just
"No," but no. She had the little
the
oxygen mask
oxygen
on, but
tube in the nose, the nasal
yeah.
thing, right?
And then I said, "Are you serious?" This we used to, and she's like,
I would have
"What?"
said the same thing. Like, are
And
you kidding me?
Yeah, and I said, I just told the kids that you're probably dead. Like
Right.
it wasn't. You have to understand our
You have
humor.
to laugh in those moments a
Yeah,
little bit.
and she just kind of laughed, and she's like, "Well, I don't know why you'd go doing something like that." I'm like, "You don't understand," and I'm telling her about the not breathing and all this other stuff. So then I had brought the kids in, and then they hung out. That was the last time that they would hang out with her. And she
Mm,
let them crawl up on her and she just,
loved
she
on them,
loved
and
them and just being the mom that she was. So
I love
that
that.
was really hard to see. And then they went home. I stayed. My sister-in-law had taken them home. And I stayed that night.
Mm,
And then I wound up going home in the morning because she was still there was there was no time like when they say
right. It
you
time's
have
kind of weird at that
you don't
point.
you don't know when to do, but I still have to balance kids at home as well. So I went home. I hung out with the kids most of the day, and then I just remember that night. My sister-in-law was staying with her at the hospital, and that night I was washing my daughter's hair. She was 6 years old, and I'm washing her hair in the shower, and I just had this like panic attack.
Mm,
Like I couldn't breathe. I was like trying to catch my
wow.
breath because it just hit me that I'm going to be the one doing this all the time. We
Wow.
were great. We were amazing co-parents. Like we were on the same, we're on the same wavelength. And
Mm,
that was probably the hardest thing to accept right then and there, knowing that she hasn't passed yet, but she will soon. I don't know
yeah.
when. but I'm going to be the one doing this all the time. And it really scared the shit out of me. And I'm sorry if
No, I mean, hey, we say shit here. That's okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let me tell you a few other words I know. No, I'm just, but it
Start
really
with
scared,
A, B, C. No.
right. It scared me. And
Yeah,
I think that
reasonably
was,
so.
and it wasn't until she wound up coming home the next day, and we can do a whole nother podcast about the way hospitals treat people.
For sure, because
But
I could weigh in on that.
but in a snapshot, these hospitals boast the fact that they have birthing centers and they're bougie and they have all different
Oh,
kinds of
yeah.
things around
But
cancer
when it comes
centers.
to kill people, it's boot
Yeah.
them out the door.
You're at Mercy Hospital. You're at the fifth floor in the coldest room in the wing, and you got a 1 to 15 patient ratio with the nurses. So it's it's clear that once the money is running out for insurance or whatever, it's kind of there's less care given and less zero F's given, I guess, as
Yeah,
far as
and that's
billing goes.
unfortunate to say.
So they wound up telling me she was going to have to go home. So here I had to rearrange my entire house. We didn't live in a very accessible home. It was an old barn. The house was a barn built in 17 something and had been modified over the years to become a home, which there's no handicap access. There's no it's not a very
Yeah,
easy place
and
to
it's
get into.
expensive and timely to like update all of that.
Absolutely. And my saving grace was a friend of mine who has also since passed, but she was a retired hospice nurse. And she called and she said, I'm going to stay at your house. And she said, can I sleep in one of the girls' beds? And I said, no, you're not. You don't have to come stay at my house. And she goes, yes, I do. And I said, no, you don't. She goes, no, I do. And I didn't understand what she was saying at the moment, but she was absolutely right because here's another thing they don't tell you. Hospice isn't there all day long.
It's not
Hospice comes
24/7.
once a day and as hard and
Yep.
again, this has nothing to do with the quality of staff or anything. It's just the way the system works. You have a nurse who's going to probably 10 different homes that day. They're changing medications. They may do some cleanup work and things like that, but that is not the case. And I think that's a hard thing for people to accept when it's actually happening to them. I mean,
Yeah. Because also it's not like
yeah,
private nursing either. And I feel like there's a
right.
gap there that people don't realize. They are hospice nurses, but they're not like there 24/7 for all of it.
No,
Some of that
and
falls on you. You become the caregiver.
you're basically on your own, and that's
Oh,
how that works. And I was so lucky. Again, for all the horrible things that happen, you have to see that there are so many good things that happen as well. And
yeah.
these are people who, you can call them angels, you can call them, whatever you want. They're good people, and within 2 hours, my house was transformed by friends and neighbors who came over, set up a hospital bed for us that they just
Beautiful.
drop off, by the way. That they just drop, they just, here's your hospital bed and your commode or whatever, the bathroom thing.
Little porta potty thing.
Yeah. And, but I was so blessed to have all these people just kind of come together
like out of the woodwork, like little worker bees, little worker ants.
Transform my home into something that was going to be
A mini hospital.
Right, basically. And there over the course, so that was on a Monday afternoon, and she was surrounded by all her family, and she wound up passing on the morning of April 13th of 2017. So it was basically 6 months from the time that they diagnosed to the time that she passed. And but
what a freaking roller coaster.
Yeah,
First of all, thank you so much for sharing all of that incredible detail, because not just in sharing your story, which I'm sure you've done 10,000 times at this point, right? But it's those nuanced details that every time you retell it, we learn something more, or we're able to share a perspective or a thing, what an incredible roller coaster that you went through. Like, I didn't have any of that on my horizon. And I just want to take a moment and testify that the whole solo parent philosophy, right? Like not just a
Yeah.
single parent, but a solo parent is such a hard, underseen job in the pre, in the during, in the post. And so I applaud you for taking that with weight, with reverence, and I commend you for stepping up and being full-time dad. And how are the girls? How's that going, if you're willing to share?
They are amazing. They are
Mm.
absolutely amazing. They've always been amazing, and they just keep growing up, and they just keep doing more incredible things each and every day, and I just love watching
Love
them
that.
grow. And it wasn't easy though. It
Yeah.
wasn't easy, especially in the first few years where you know, at this point, this is the hard pill to swallow
Mm.
because I took them to a bereavement group, Rick's Place, which is,
Yeah.
you know, I was telling you about how amazing that organization is, and it was more of a, you know, they do activities with the kids, but it's also the peer support for me,
Yeah.
where you know, you're listening a lot and you're listening to other people's experiences, and what might not hit at that moment will hit you somewhere down the road.
It will
You
always
know,
like come back. Yep.
yeah, I always say grief is, you know, people die in many different methods. There's many
Mm.
different methods of death, whether it be a heart attack or a stroke or cancer or drug overdose, car accident, whatever it is, it still doesn't make the grief process any different for the people that
Mhm.
are left behind. And grief has many of the same themes. And while you're sitting there listening, you're like, I don't know, this doesn't really apply to me. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, you're like, I remember that
You're
person
like, oh,
said
that's
that.
what they meant.
That's what
Yep.
they were talking about. And that's the nice thing about that organization is there are
Love
people on
that.
different levels or different stages of grief. And you know, you get together and share your experiences. And I always think that's pretty helpful. But the kids don't remember
Mm.
her. That is the thing
Oh yeah.
that hurts the most
Ooh.
because you know, how much do you remember from when you were 5 and 6 years old? You probably don't remember a whole lot. I mean, you remember
Mm.
things. They know who she is. They've seen pictures. There's never been a
Sure.
lack of that. But they'll never know her. They'll never know her the way I knew her. They'll never know her the way her
Yeah.
family knew her. They'll never know the way her friends knew her. They'll never get that experience of her talking to them
Of her
again.
essence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of who she
100%. I
was.
feel that. And it's so funny that you call that out because like as you're talking, I was pulling out red threads, thing that resonated, right? Like Craig died on a Tuesday. Craig died the day before Thanksgiving. So you got a diagnosis then, right? Like it
Right.
was a 6-month runway from his injury to his death. He wasn't cancer, it was medical negligence. But I'm like pulling
Right.
out all these red threads. We were married for 7 years before he
Yeah.
died. Like, so my daughter
Yeah.
was 19 months old, she was under 2. So I get the whole young kid, solo parent, all of that, right? And so it's just funny that in so different experiences, your tragedy and that cancer and that timeline and that roller coaster, and my, medical negligence, accidental death, its own thing, still have such a parallel. And it's just a further testament to what you're saying, is that it doesn't matter how they die. Grieving is universal. Maybe not how we grieve, but that we grieve. And so I
Right.
love that. It just makes me feel connected to the universe a little bit, right? Like those lost stories that we can share in.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing those details. I'd like to pivot just slightly and ask you about going back to work, right? Because
Mhm.
you'd had this long runway where you had to juggle schedules and juggle kids and juggle things. And then you get your bereavement leave and then you go back to work. And I, unfortunately, did not have a job that was supportive of that process. But I'm hoping that you can tell me you had a different experience.
Well, and you know, and that's why you started this organization too, right?
Correct.
Because it's
Part
just
of it
one of
anyway,
those things.
yes.
Well, because you know, again, I'm one of those people who is just incredibly lucky, and
Mm.
and I have to be grateful for the process that happened to me. No matter how horrible of what I was going through, I'm still grateful for all the things that kind of fell into place when I needed them and when I needed them. And in similar fashion, yes, the bereavement leave is only 3 days. That is
Mhm.
that's one of those things that whether it be your aunt, your uncle, or your grandmother, or your grandfather, or your spouse, it's 3 days.
Yep.
That's the tragedy of that, because that's not enough time to get your crap together. It really
Not
is
even enough
not.
time to think about getting
Yeah.
your crap together.
Well, because your crap's not going to be together for a few years, I would say,
Facts.
because you're going through this brain fog. You have this. It's one of those things there's people out there telling you don't drive a car too much, or don't do
Yeah.
anything so dangerous
No
because you're not.
operating heavy machinery, right?
Right, because your mind is so preoccupied with what just happened to you. You're in shock. You're going through something that you still
Yeah.
haven't processed yet. So that was, again, I was lucky enough that I had enough vacation time to take off. I think I had like 2 more weeks vacation out of the four
Mhm.
that I accumulate every year. And I hadn't even discussed it with my employer at the time. It wasn't anybody that worked at the radio station that I worked with that was giving me any hard time about it. It was the
Sure.
HR guy who calls while this is probably 5 days after Jen passes. I'm in Costco because I don't know where else to go. And just like, let's get the kids out of the
Mm.
house for a little while and we'll go to Costco and poke around for a little bit and get them a
Let's
hot
just talk about
dog.
the reality of
Yeah.
that situation right
Yeah.
there. Just I'm gonna pause you real like that whole bumbling around because you're literally lost, like a lost
Yeah.
dog, right? Looking, feeling for something to to make a thing, right? Literally just go to Costco and walk around and like maybe have free samples and like what
Yeah.
100%. That is such a real moment. Oh my goodness. I can feel that. It's
Right.
palpable
And as we're eating the hot dog, or they're eating the hot dogs, because I wasn't
because
eating
you're not
anything at that,
eating.
I get a phone call from the HR, and this guy I don't know what his deal was, but thank God he had the general manager in the room with him because he was doing damage control for the HR guy. And the HR guy was
Which
like,
is not at all how it's supposed to
yeah.
go.
And he says, it was enraging because it was so heartless. Like,
Mm.
I think
And
you're
almost
just,
that like mindless,
yeah,
heartless, right? Like maybe not
yeah,
intentional.
right. And this guy, I knew him, but I didn't really know him. Like, I knew who he
Sure.
was, and he was a business guy, whatever.
Mhm.
But he talked like this, and he goes, I don't know if you're gonna, when you're coming back, or even if you're gonna come back.
Oh,
But he tells me you can't take FMLA because you're not taking care of anybody. She's dead.
oh my God. He
Yeah,
said it like that.
he did. And then you can hear the general manager scrambling to, kind of, tamper down the flames of that.
Yep.
It's like, no, 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 that kind of thing. And what wound up happening was, with my company, they have a disability program.
Yeah.
And, I was seeing a therapist at that time, and I had started seeing a therapist kind of like on an emergency basis because of what we were going through
Yeah.
leading up.
Reasonably so. And I applaud you for that too.
Well, you got to
I
take
feel like
care of
everybody
yourself.
should be in
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah. And the unfortunate piece is there's not enough of them. There's not enough to go
And they're
around.
underpaid.
But the one I had, she was great. And I told her the story about what happened. And she's like, bullshit. She's like, you're
Yep.
taking care of yourself.
Yes.
That is FMLA qualified. And she's like,
Yeah.
bring me the paperwork. I am signing it today. And I went up to the car and I brought it back up to her, and she filled everything out
Love
for
that.
me. And but it didn't fall under FMLA. It fell under, yeah, we had to go through 6 weeks of disability pay.
Yeah. I took short-term disability too.
Right.
But like, how
But
messed up is it that we have to resort to that because the system is so broken that we end up
yeah.
quote unquote disabled for a short-term amount of time?
Right. And here you are down an entire income, and you're also living off 60% of what you were making. So,
And maintaining parenting and
right.
hygiene routines and a clean
Um,
house. Yep,
so,
the whole thing.
so it was a total of 6 weeks that I took off
Mm.
from the time that she Well, it was yeah, it was about a little over 6 weeks, but from the time that she had gone into the hospital till the day that I came back, it was probably like May 23rd, I think,
Wow.
that I returned, and yeah, that was tough. It was still tough. It was still tough being in a job where you have to be on all the time. Like,
Yeah.
there
Quote
is.
unquote customer facing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't understand that it's entertainment. What I do is entertainment. I'm not the same
Yeah.
person,
The radio personality
right.
versus who
Yeah,
Steve Nagle is
you,
as the
you,
person.
you kind of turn it on a little bit when you go on. You
Yeah.
have to. You're performing. You're embellishing
Yeah.
things.
Well, especially because on the radio you don't have that visual. You have to like bump up the, the audio factor and the humor factor and the things
right,
to compensate
right.
for video.
So that was a challenge. That was really a challenge. But I had worked with Bax and O'Brien at the time,
Mm,
and those guys were great. I mean, they knew what was going on. They
yeah.
had been to my wedding. They had they had come to the kids' parties and stuff a couple of times. We were kind of like a little mini family.
You
There
spend
on the
more
show.
time with those people than you do your own family sometimes, right? Like,
Yeah. So they were, everybody was great, but it was still like you're in this brain fog and you're not
mm,
getting out of it anytime soon. So, um, that was hard to go back to that, but it
how
also
long
was
do you think
needed.
it took you to get through that, like, feeling of inefficiency or lack of presence at work? Like, there's that fog that persists for the first couple years. If we're transparent, we want to
Yeah.
say it's less than that. But where was it for you in that art where you really started to feel quote unquote normal?
It,
I hate that
it
word, by the
it
way,
probably
normal.
it probably wasn't too long. It was probably maybe a week or two where I kind of finally settled in because of the company that I was with.
Yeah.
We started going back to insulting each other, probably like a week later, but that was the friendliness of it. That was
Yeah,
the
that's their
that
love
was
language.
to make, yeah, exactly. We work with each other every day. It's kind of like being in a very long-term relationship where you're going to get sick of the other person every once in a while, and they're
Yeah.
glad that you were back and because you were gone for so long, but then it's time to get back to business because
Yeah.
life moves forward. Like, you still have to know, even though you're
Mm,
hanging on to this thing that is devastating to you, you still have to
mm.
go through the motions of life.
Yeah, like Jurassic Park, life finds
Hmm.
a way.
Right.
Mm,
So,
I love that. Well, we are just about at the end of our time together today, and
wow, it was that
I
quick?
know it
Jeez.
went already so
Wow.
quick. Actually, we went over our normal time. You get to take up extra time. I love it.
Well,
But I'm
I'm a
going to ask
celebrity by
you,
me, so
you are the celebrity, so let's lean on that.
I can do what
I'm
I
going to ask
want. Yeah.
you the same question I ask all of my other guests this season, but I want you to be extra thoughtful about it because you have the lived experience none of the other guests do this season. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is experiencing loss right now?
Take a giant deep breath
Mm,
and tell yourself, no matter how hard it seems, that it's going to be okay. Like, eventually it's going to be okay. Just like any other feeling, it doesn't last forever. Maybe the memory does, and the feelings do, and you break down and cry every once in a while, but I don't know if you've heard that old adage about grief being like a tidal wave where
mm,
you're walking around and the ocean's tipping you over. I don't know who said it, but it was pretty relatable. But
yeah.
eventually it's not stormy every day. Eventually the ocean kind of,
The tide
the tide
recedes and
recedes, and the
yeah,
things get calmer. And every once in a while, you'll get hit by a wave again. But it's not.
the
It's
combination of learning how to stand up when they come and the waves not
right.
feeling so big and
It's learning
right, you
about
learn to tread water a little bit.
you do, and you're gonna be okay. So just keep
I love
telling
that.
yourself that.
Yes, that like positive affirmation on repeat. I
Right.
know I need that. Where can the listeners find more information about Rick's Place? I know you mentioned them and I'd love to give them a little shout out.
Sure. It's Rick's Place, and it's out of Wilbraham, Mass, and you can find it at ricksplacema.org. You can also do a quick Google search. They're on the socials. They're not so big on the socials so much. I mean, the nice thing is
doing the hard work.
Well, they are busy doing the hard work. There's only like 2 full-time staff members, and the rest are volunteers. But it's a really, I can't say enough great things about the organization. So if you don't see much of a social media presence for them, that's okay. They have plenty of information on their website, ricksplacema.org.
With celebrity endorsement from Steve Nagle. I love it.
Well, I'm also on the board too. So how about that?
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
And for those who aren't familiar with you, they can listen on Rock 102. If there's something more that people need for that, let me know.
No, you can just rock102.com. If you don't feel like listening live, you can listen anytime you want. So
good. So I don't have to get up at like ass crack of dawn to listen to all the Kardashian jokes.
We turn every episode into a podcast, so it's there for you to listen to. So commercial free.
Check out my episode then, because I guess apparently I'm on a podcast since we had our little talk, right?
You are. You're actually on 2 separate ones. There was one where you're isolated and the one that, okay.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and my listeners. And for those of you out there, please go back to listen, like, and subscribe to all of our previous episodes. Stay tuned for details on season 3. We will be sourcing new guests, looking for people who are going back to work after loss. We're going to dive into that topic deeply.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Can I just say thank you for spearheading that organization and doing because there are so many people out there that don't, and like I always say, I'm lucky, but there are people out there who aren't so lucky and they don't get that grace that I got from the people I work with. So thank you for doing what you do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that call out. With grief and gratitude, I'm your host, Kate Molison. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Happily Never After, part of the Xvadio podcast network. You can catch every episode of Happily Never After, as well as the rest of the network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts.